Hello, and welcome to the first episode in the Lipedema Stress Reduction series. My name is Kathleen Lisson. I am a lymphedema therapist. I'm board certified in therapeutic massage and bodywork, a health coach and yoga teacher. I'm also a co-author of the Standard of Care for Lipedema in the United States, and I've authored several books on lymphedema and lipedema. And this series is in answer to more and more of the literature on lipedema that is pointing towards stress reduction as an essential part of self-management. So I want to give you some of the tools. We will try them here in the episodes to add to your self-care practices. So these tools include breath work. So here's just a general caution. If you tend to have anxiety, breathing problems, cardiovascular or blood pressure, or any other issues that you think would impact your ability to do breath work, now is a good time to ask your primary care physician if adding breath work to your management is a good idea. And even if generally you don't have issues with symptoms from doing breath work and breathing, even if today you feel overwhelming anxiety, lightheadedness or dizziness, a rapid heartbeat, or shortness of breath, this is your body's way of telling you that this is not right for you right now. And it's sometimes best to practice breath work on an empty stomach. So the suggestion could be try practicing it in the morning before exercise or breakfast. If when you do the deep breathing, it feels uncomfortable because you have a full tummy. So in this episode, I would like to invite you to befriend your breath. So we'll start with a mindful moment. I'll just invite you to come into a position that's respectful yet relaxed and take a few moments to do some breathing. So we'll just feel into our body and inhale and exhale. And as you're breathing and experiencing yourself breathe, I'll just invite you to bring to mind whatever reason you had to press play on this video, to look into ways that you can add stress reduction to your self-care practices. And I'll invite you to stay curious. What have you already practiced in the past that has helped you with stress reduction? And what are you interested to practice in the future? And as we come to the close of this short mindful moment, I'll invite you to take one more deep breath in and one more slow breath out. And we will transition to a mindfulness practice called the stop technique. So this is something you can add to your toolbox that you can use at any time. It takes less than a minute to do. So we'll start by stopping, just stopping what we're doing for just a moment. And then paying attention as we take that next breath. And as we exhale, just observe. What are your current feelings and emotions? Are there any notable physical sensations in your body? We don't need to change or judge our sensations. We're just observing them. And then we proceed. So we can start by doing some yoga just of the neck and shoulders. So yoga in this case is pairing movement and breath. So I'll invite you to only go as far as is comfortable in your neck range of motion, and we'll pair it with breathing. So I'll invite you to exhale, and then inhale as you look up, and exhale as you look down. Inhale as you look up, and exhale as you look down. Inhale as you look up, and exhale as you look down. Return your head to neutral, and then inhale as you look to the right. Exhale as you look forward. Inhale as you look to the left. Exhale as you look forward. Inhale and look to the right. Exhale and look forward. Inhale, look to the left. Exhale and look forward. Inhale, looking to the right. Exhale, looking forward. Inhale, looking to the left. And then exhale, looking forward. Now we'll bring our ear closer to our shoulder. So inhale and bring the ear near the right shoulder. Exhale and come up. Inhale the ear closer to the other shoulder. Exhale and come up. Remember, only as far as is comfortable. Inhale, tipping the head to the side. Exhale, the head comes up. Inhale, tipping the head to the other side. Exhale, the head up. Inhale to this side for the final time. Exhale back to the top. Then inhaling to the opposite side. Exhale up to the top. Now we'll inhale as our shoulders come up and back. Exhale down and forward. Inhale the shoulders up and back. Exhale down and forward. Inhale and exhale, rotating our shoulders. And then inhale this direction one last time, and then exhale. And with the next inhale, the shoulders come back, and then to the top, the exhale, they come forward and down. Inhaling and exhaling the shoulders in the opposite direction. Two more. And then at the top of the inhale, the shoulders are up, up, high, high, high. And then with a sigh, let the shoulders come back down. And take a moment here and feel into the neck and shoulders. Is there any difference than before this short yoga breathing and motion sequence? Really taking time to feel into those neck and shoulder muscles. Okay, and then we'll move into our first short guided meditation. I'll invite you to take a position which is respectful yet alert. The eyes can be open or closed, and you see in front of you exactly what we're going to say in this meditation. And we'll start by taking a little bit of a deeper breath in and a longer breath out. And I'll invite you to consider a few statements beginning with what have you missed out on because of your lipedema pain? What experiences have you had to miss out on because of your lipedema? And if you're experiencing a feeling right now, where in the body are you feeling that? If lipedema pain was no longer a part of your life, what would you do differently? If you didn't have to consider the symptoms of lipedema, what would you do differently? And thinking about a life without those pain symptoms, where do you feel that in your body? And what would a life with less chronic stress mean for you? How would you feel if you had less chronic stress in your life? And how will you know that adding stress reduction activities has been a success? How are you going to measure your success with implementing your stress reduction practices? And I'll invite you to take a deeper breath in and a longer breath out as we finish this short guided meditation. And then we'll move into sharing some information about breathing itself. So, breathing can be a potent stress reduction practice. Some interesting facts about breathing. The average person takes 21,000 breaths per day, and that's an average of 15 breaths per minute. If we become aware of our breath, we can lower it to about 6 breaths per minute, just becoming aware of it. And of course, if we practice with deeper breathing techniques, we can get it to even less breaths than that. And the main muscle of breathing is our diaphragm. So this is a really great picture. You'll see the red color muscle. Here is our diaphragm. You'll see how it comes around the bottom of the rib cage, and then actually the muscle pulls down when we inhale, and it can fill the lungs by pulling down, creating a negative pressure space, and then the air comes into the body. And then when it relaxes, it's up high like this, and the air is leaving the body. And if you can see Really small, by the spine in the muscle, there's an opening, and in that opening, some of the vessels and some of the lymphatic fluid are flowing through that opening. So moving the diaphragm actually helps to move the lymphatic fluid of the body. And this is a nice picture illustrating inhalation and exhalation. So during inhalation, that diaphragm contracts and moves downward. You'll see that green arrow pointing down. And you'll also see that the muscles can contract to move the ribs outwards. The rib cage is getting a little bit bigger during the inhalation. And then in the exhalation, you'll see that that green arrow is pointing up. The diaphragm is relaxing and moving upwards. And then our muscles in between our ribs are also relaxing, and that allows the ribs to move inwards. So we'll just do a short period now of self-inquiry, looking at our own breath, because each of us has a different relationship with our individual breath. So the first question I'd ask is, can you hear yourself breathe? When you're breathing at rest, is it silent or are you able to hear yourself breathe? When you're not talking, do you notice whether you breathe through your mouth or do you breathe through your nose? Do you notice that your nose is getting stuffed up, that it's hard to breathe through your nose because it's not empty a lot? It's another factor in how we're able to breathe. Do you sigh or yawn regularly? That might be a sign of how much breath your body is able to have. And do you snore? Do you snore at night? That's a very important symptom. And definitely if you have a snoring problem, that's something that your doctor should be talking to you about. So these are just some simple ways to explore the breath and then just stay curious maybe for the next day, noticing, are you hearing yourself breathe? Are you breathing more through your mouth or your nose? Does your nose get stuffed up a lot, especially if you find yourself breathing through your mouth a lot? Do you sigh or yawn regularly? And sometimes you have to ask if there's another person sleeping in the same room as you. Do you snore at night? Let's look into how to breathe with your diaphragm. It's so good to breathe with the diaphragm. It brings so many benefits. So let's learn more about that. So one way of educating, of really getting people to notice if they're breathing through their diaphragm or they're breathing more in their upper chest and using more of the um, accessory muscles of breathing instead of that diaphragm, is that they are not moving the belly in and out. So sometimes if we're showing a child how to breathe with their diaphragm, we'll put something soft like a teddy bear on their belly while they're lying on their back. And then the instruction will be to try to move that teddy bear up and down naturally by having the breathing involve the belly. So as you inhale, the teddy bear moves up because your belly is moving up, your abdomen. And then as you exhale, that teddy bear will be moving down a little bit. So for older children and adults, you can use a heavy book. That can also be used. If you don't have anything heavy, if you have a lot of, say, like lentils or rice or oats, something heavy, a couple pounds, that can also be used in a pinch as some kind of self-training to feel viscerally through our body if we are breathing correctly with our diaphragm. And then also, if you can see, this is a sand bell. So this is a weighted, it's 2 pounds or 1 kilogram. So in the office, we would put something like a sand bell on the stomach and then guide the person to breathe up and down, moving the sand bell up and down as they naturally breathe. It's interesting to know that there's also different breathing frequencies. So, how many times a minute you're breathing has different effects on the body. And breathing at the rate of 6 breaths a minute equals a breathing frequency of zero point 0.1 hertz. And there's some very interesting research on zero point 0.1 hertz that we'll cover in future episodes. So kind of keep that at the back of your mind. If we're inhaling for a count of 5 and exhaling for a count of 5, so each breath is 10 seconds, so that's 6 breaths per minute. That's zero point 0.1 hertz breathing. And we'll actually take some time and try this style of breathing. Um, so I'll invite you to begin in a relaxed yet alert position. Your eyes can be open or closed, and we'll do this 5-5 breathing for 5 minutes. So it'll be 30 breaths total, and I'll keep the time and cue us when to breathe. So we'll get started with a nice exhale and then inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale, 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 inhale, exhale. We're about halfway done. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, Exhale. Inhale. 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 Exhale. Let's do one last inhale and a nice exhale. Okay, so that was a little bit over 5 minutes of this practice. I'll invite you to take a few slower breaths, come to a normal breathing rate for yourself after this 5 minute practice. And take a moment here to feel into your body. How do you feel after this short 5 minute breathing practice? And would you be interested in adding this way of breathing to your self-care routine? Okay, so now let's look a little bit at how posture affects the way we breathe. So we'll see a similar skeleton to what was earlier. We see that nice red diaphragmatic muscle right there, the diaphragm. And let's do a little experiment in our body. So you can take a phone if it's nearby, and then put it right where you put it when you're kind of scrolling while seated. And then look down at that phone and then try to breathe. And really feel in your neck and in the front of your rib cage, how it feels to breathe while you're kind of looking down and scrolling at a phone. And then I'll invite you to put the phones down. And now sit with your spine lifted. Maybe if you're sitting, your legs can be on the ground or they can be crossed. And then your hands can come to your knees, looking straight up. And then take a few breaths in this position. And notice if there's anything different when it comes to a different posture and the ability of your body to breathe. And just kind of take this as good guidance. If you feel the difference with your ability to breathe, just notice for the rest of the day and the next few days, how many minutes, how many hours a day are you in this like head forward looking down posture, with the spine kind of collapsing on itself, the skeleton kind of collapsing in and the ribs kind of deflated. And how is that affecting your breathing on a minute-to-minute basis? I love these little lessons that we can feel really in with our own body. And we'll look at some research. So researchers have found that this forward head posture can also indicate the presence of a short, flat diaphragm. So it's that diaphragm muscle that all the research is telling us diaphragmatic breathing is so important for lipedema self-care. But this short, flat diaphragm, weak abdominals, due to the fact that positioning the head in front of the body increases the resting length of the diaphragm. So that can cause it to be short and flat, cause our abdominals to become weaker, and then impact the way that we breathe. So let's look at a little bit more of philosophy and really get some interpretations of what different words and terms mean as we really start talking deeply about breath work in these next few episodes. There is a difference between just breathing and then breath work and then pranayama. So as a yoga teacher, I will teach pranayama. It's one of the 8 limbs of yoga, and we can affect the body's prana or its energy through breath work. We can do other things also affect the body's prana, but breath work is one thing that affects the prana, but prana is bigger than breath work, and breath work is different from just breathing differently. So breath work is breathing plus we're putting our attention on our breathing. So just breathing, we breathe while we're asleep, we breathe while we're working. We usually don't have to pay attention to breathing. It happens, our body breathes on its own. But if we're doing breath work, we're taking that breathing and we're putting attention on it. We're taking that breathing and we're putting awareness into the fact that we're breathing. We may be, breath work may be an intentional change to the breathing. So when we were doing this 5-5 breathing, we were breathing for a certain amount of seconds and then exhaling for a certain amount of seconds. It was an intentional change to the way that we breathe. So these 3 things, combining breathing with attention, with awareness that we know what we're doing, that we're paying attention and focusing on the breath, and that we're changing the breath. That makes it breath work instead of just breathing, which we do automatically. And then pranayama, this yogic practice, is more than just breath work. We're taking the breath work and we're using it to manipulate the prana in our body. So now we'll switch to more of a guided breath awareness. So this will be another guided meditation that will kind of help us make friends with our breath and stay curious about our individual breathing practice that we have as a human in this lifetime. So I'll invite you to come into a position which is respectful yet relaxed. You can be lying down or you can be seated. And your eyes can be open or closed. And I'll invite you to become aware that you're breathing. I'll invite you to notice your inhalations. I'll invite you to notice your exhalations. I'll invite you to notice if there's any pauses in between the inhalation and the exhalation. I'll invite you to be curious and Notice what the inhalation feels like. What seems to initiate the inhalation? Where in your body do you feel your breath? Do you feel it at your nostrils? Do you feel it in your rib cage? Do you feel it in the abdomen? And these may be very subtle movements, but I'll invite you to be curious about whether your shoulders move when you breathe. Do you feel your hips moving when you breathe? Do you feel your lumbar spine, that lower part of your back? Do you feel it moving when you breathe? What do you feel when you're completely full of breath at the top of that inhale? What do you feel? Is there a pause before the exhalation starts after you've completed the inhale? And what do you feel when you're empty of all your breath? And if there's a pause, how long does that pause last? Does your breath feel short or long? Does it feel deep or shallow? Is it quiet or does it have a sound? Does it seem easy to breathe? Or does it seem like there's a laboring or an effort required? Are there any differences in the length of inhalation and exhalation? So is the inhaling longer? Is the exhaling longer? And know that simply becoming aware of the breath will alter it. And it's interesting to make a mental note of the changes you observe after you've become aware of your breath. So as we close this guided meditation, kind of staying curious about your breath, I'll invite you to take one longer breath in and a slower breath out. And we'll end this first episode with a mindful moment. Just taking a moment here to think about what we've learned. Is there anything you want to know more about? You want to do more research on? Are you already using diaphragmatic breathing in your self-care? Or are you going to start? Are you going to make more time for it? This breathwork practice that will help reduce the stress and possibly help your lipedema symptoms. And we can end this episode with a long breath in and a long exhale out. And here is the article that we cited for our resource for this episode. And I'd like to thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Stress Reduction for Lipedema. Thank you and have a great day.